Hello and welcome back to the third episode of Gaming Reversal. This is a podcast meant to bring you some of the greatest and most horrible gems of video game history to light. I'm your host, Steven Vecchiarelli, and this week is going to be a bit shorter, somewhere around 30 minutes. We don't have any movies to discuss this week. We covered Solo and Deadpool 2 last week, but this week we have some really good games on this podcast. So if you're new to the podcast, we basically cover 2 new games every week. It depends on if they've come out in like the past year or so. Honestly, lately it's been within the past few months. And then we also cover 3 old games. These can range anywhere from Xbox 360. We've had Xbox 360, old PC games. I think we had a GameCube game. It's just ranging all over the place. Kingdom Hearts was technically on PS2. We covered that in the first episode. So this week we're covering Detroit Become Human on PS4 from Quantic Dream. Dark Souls Remastered, that's on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch from Software. Prototype, that was on technically 360, PC, and PS3 at first, but eventually it came to Xbox One and PS4. FEZ, that's an indie game from Polytron Corporation. That's on PC, 360, PS3, PS4, Vita, iOS, and Android. And then The Crew, which was a racing game on PS4, 360, PS3, and Xbox One. Also, just to give you a preview for the next 2 weeks, next week is going to be an E3 pre-discussion. We're going to bring up games that have been rumored to appear, games maybe I'd like to, see at E3, anything of that nature. And then the week after will be post E3 discussion, and that will be on the 17th. So getting right into it, this week our first featured game is Detroit Become Human. It's made by the guys at Quantic Dream. They've also made Heavy Rain. They made a demo actually originally for this game called Kara. I think that was in 2012 or 2013. And that basically inspired Detroit Become Human. They also made a game called Fahrenheit and a game called Omicron, the Nomad Soul. Basically, they have a style of more cinematic gameplay where you aren't doing you're not like playing an FPS or anything where you're controlling the character and you're influencing with I can't describe what actions it would be. It's not action-packed by any means. You're literally walking around and you swivel the stick to pick up a remote for the TV or something like that, or you hit circle to, I don't know, smack someone. It's very much like quick time events, but it's an entire game style that's been played for a while. Heavy Rain we talked about last week. It was similar, but not the same as far as story. Detroit Become Human basically revolves around androids that have all of a sudden started revolting and basically become more human in nature. They won't just listen to the commands of the humans that they serve. They suddenly, maybe they kill an abusive owner, maybe they run away or anything like that. And on top of that, you're playing as 3 different characters. You're playing as a character called Kara. She's android that in the beginning of the game, she was taken from the repair shop because her owner said she was hit by a car and it tore her apart or something like that. She had her memory wiped and she goes and serves this family. They're a bit more of a downtrodden family. Also, the game's called Detroit because it's based in the city of Detroit, but like a futuristic city where there's like a major metropolis area, but there's still, the crappy area of Detroit. So with that, you're serving this family, and then you basically find this motive of this abusive owner is abusing you, and also this little girl named Alice. And as Kara, you're basically trying to protect her, and you run away. It's right in the beginning of the game, so it's not like it's any major spoilers. You run away, and you basically want to take care of this girl, and along the way, you meet some other people, and you do some pretty interesting stuff. And then also, on a second character, you play as Connor. He's a android that's still very much under the whim of, I don't know what service he technically serves. He serves some kind of detective agency in Detroit. He's like a full straight across the board android. He will listen to anything. He's just meant to be an investigator. So his story is more focusing on why the androids are revolting, why they're becoming I can't remember the exact term that they use right now, but they're basically just lashing out and not being the typical androids that they've been. His story is a lot more interesting than Kara's, but right now I'm just trying to get backstory. And then the third character you play as is Marcus. He's an android that served a very rich painter. The painter was encouraging him to do some things outside of the android norm, like paint or anything like that. He kept motivating the android Marcus. His owner kept motivating him to stand up against like certain things. Like maybe you get pushed down by some people that don't like androids in the street because they say androids are taking all the jobs and all that. It's kind of interesting in that aspect. But then you eventually, it's called rampant, by the way. You go rampant when you're not following android rules anymore, and you basically want to become human. His story is the whole part of the revolution. Connor's is the whole countering the revolution and investigating why it's happening. And Kara and Alice are just trying to survive after escaping an abusive owner. So with that backstory, this might be a long discussion, but I can say I absolutely love this game. Like, Heavy Rain had some major issues that I talked about last week. Like, I thought voice acting was an issue. The main plot point was interesting, and I liked it a lot. But I preferred Detroit Become Human because every character is interesting. Whereas like in Heavy Rain, every character kind of felt like a piece of shit. Meaning like the dad was, he didn't watch his son, haha, quote quote. His wife leaves him and all that. He's like down in the dumps because his son's dead. The detective there's some major backstory, but he turns out to be a prick. And then the other detective I actually didn't mind that much. I can't remember what his name was, but I didn't mind him. But compared to them, I think this game is leaps and bounds better than that game. So I think one thing they did better with this game compared to Heavy Rain is that if you make a certain decision or you make a big influential decision throughout the story, at the end of each mission, it'll show you the mission you just played, and it'll tell you, here's the decision that you made. Here's where it branched off into this. If you made this decision, it would have gone a different direction. Here's something you could have investigated, but you missed. Here's something that... So it's a whole bunch of stuff like that with every single character. Maybe you forgot to, see a certain object that would allow Connor's investigation as the android. That would basically give you another speech option. Like, oh, you chose this thing and you knew that the android's name was Joe Schmo. So you call the android by his name, and then, oh, how do you know my name? And then it opens a whole dialogue tree. So basically they do that with every single character. That's something I don't really remember happening in Heavy Rain as far as investigating objects. It's something that was definitely in LA Noire, which we talked about last week, which is another game in this style. It's definitely not in the same exact style as Heavy Rain, but by all means, it's like LA Noire is more action based, obviously, and this game is more story based. So with that, approaching it as a character by character basis, like I said, Connor is more of the investigating style. Kara and Alice, I think theirs is just pure escapism, right? Like there's cool scenery, there's great characters you meet along the way. There's a lot more. Maybe it's stealth with them, only in one part with a major mansion. A lot of betrayal, that kind of stuff. And Marcus, it's kind of action-packed, but not as much as Connor's by any means. And by action-packed, like I said, it's just literally, you hit a button at a certain time and you counter a punch and then you punch someone and then that kind of stuff. So something cool to mention with all that is that Connor works for this detective agency, and he's assisting this guy named Hank, who's kind of like a loose cannon of sorts. He's a detective, and he drinks a lot, and he's an alcoholic, and he has a bunch of family history. He doesn't really like androids. This detective is also played by Clancy Brown, who was Black Hand in Warcraft, the movie. He was also the captain in Shawshank Redemption, and he played Surtur the big fire demon in the beginning of Thor Ragnarok and at the end of Thor Ragnarok. So he's been in a lot of things. So Connor's assisting this guy. Great voice actors, by the way. Something that beats Heavy Rain. Connor's assisting this guy, and you're finding out why androids are going rampant. You discover some androids that have killed their owners, and they're still hiding in the attic or something like that. And from a story perspective, you're waiting for it to connect with the other characters. I would say it connects more with Marcus's character, but I still like the arc in between, because Connor at first is like a straight-laced, like, androids aren't supposed to be acting this way. He's going to make them act this way, which gets boring after a while. No one likes a goody two-shoes. But with Connor, he eventually starts seeing why these androids go rampant. Whereas, like, if you play as Marcus and Kara, they're just straight up across the board. They're like, yep, nope, no more of that android shit. So getting into Kara and Alice, they're my favorite characters to play as, because I always love this, maybe The Last of Us, maybe BioShock Infinite, maybe just like where you're one character and you have a sidekick, and you're just trying to find, finding a place in the world and fending for each other. Eventually you meet a guy named Luther. He's an android too. He's great. I loved him. Kind of looks like Francis Ngannou, which is weird. He's a UFC fighter, big UFC fighter. As far as like physically big, like he's like huge. Luther's the same way. You're discovering your place, and there's some beautiful moments playing as Kara and Alice. Like, whereas like Connor, you're running around a lot. You're doing a lot of investigating. You're scanning for blood on the ground or android blood. It's something blue. Connor licks it so he could tell what kind of blood it is, which is kind of weird because he's an android and he could directly communicate with the detective agency and stuff like that. So as Kara and Alice, there's some of the most beautiful moments I've experienced as far as these games go. Like at one point, you're on the run with Alice and Kara. Alice has to be like 8 years old, 7 years old, something around that. And I won't spoil her backstory, but I really enjoyed it. So you're running away with her and Luther, and you encounter an abandoned amusement park. And there's a situation where you think it's going to go bad because you're basically being rushed by a bunch of robots, and they're crashing in through windows or whatever. Turns out they just wanted to help you. Like that, they were just like, oh, we haven't seen people in so long. No one comes to our amusement park anymore. And then there's like this beautiful moment where you're on a carousel, and Alice goes on the carousel, and Kara's so happy for her, and all the androids are so happy for her, and it was like a really surreal moment. Like I was waiting for like a Last of Us situation where someone comes in and Alice is killed or Kara's killed or something like that, but no, it was a beautiful moment in that situation. And there's other situations too where, even though like you're homeless at one point and you're hiding from stuff, like you're looking for a teddy bear or food or something for Alice. You're trying to help Alice out, that kind of stuff, right in the beginning of the game. Just like the little things, like the little dialogue trees, like Kara very much just wanted to be a mother to Alice, which is, I guess, the part of becoming rampant and revolting on the android side. She wanted to focus more on the family side of it. Yeah. And then Marcus, like I said, is covered by this painter. The painter honestly kind of influences him to revolt. Something happens with the painter's family and Marcus. Marcus goes on a revolt. He goes and finds this android sanctuary. That's where his main story starts. And this android sanctuary, they're like, we just don't want to be under the imprisonment of the humans. And Marcus is like, fuck that. I want to lead an android revolution, and we're going to tell the humans that we're going to be treated as equals, pretty much. There's more behind it than that, obviously, but I'm not gonna jump into that. Like, I know I've said some minor things, but trust me, it's not major plot points in the story. Because like I said, it's a really enjoyable game, and with all the different endings, you're gonna play through it. Like, I can see people playing through this like 10 times and still not getting every single ending or every single dialogue choice or every single backstory option or anything like that. Because I beat it once, and then I started another playthrough. And I started playing it again, making different decisions on purpose, and it was interesting to see different sides of the story. So with all the character's backstory in mind, like playing as Connor, I made stupid decisions. I'll say that. Playing as Marcus, I made stupid decisions. And playing as Kara, I made stupid decisions. And they all upset me greatly. I think it shows that I'm kind of not impatient, but I don't think through a situation. Like, there will be these quick snap situations where if you have to make a decision, right? And it'll show you the outcome of what decision you make. Like, maybe you vault up like a wall or something like that as Marcus. And when you vault up this wall, it'll simulate it, right? It'll show your options. It'll be like, you vault over this, you jump to this, you do this, and then you choke a guy out or something like that. And and Connor also has those decisions. So you'll preview them, and then it'll tell you if there's going to be a bad outcome or a good outcome, and it's like you scan for it, and then you execute it, and it's just a cinematic where it shows the situation that you just pondered, right? So in those situations, sometimes they're forced on you real fast because you have a countdown, and it says press this button to do this, right? And I pressed the button to do the wrong thing before considering all my options, and something happened that I didn't like, like stuff like that. That happened on every single character because I didn't think my decisions through. So if you're bad like me and you don't think through your decisions like a fucking idiot, you're probably going to have like every single character in a bad situation. Maybe they die, maybe someone punches them or anything like that. Heavy Rain, I killed the girl in the apartment on purpose. I was like, get her out of here. I want to see what happens. And she died. This game, I didn't want to hurt Kara and Alice, and I got a bad ending with them, and I hated it. I hate myself for it. Also, I forgot to mention, Kara is voiced by Valerie Curry. She wasn't really in anything except, I think, Blair Witch. Not really anything important, obviously. Connor wasn't voiced by anyone important. Like, he was just a guy I think they got for this game. But Connor has a super unique voice, like the way he talks. I know it's part of the Android experience, but I really like the way Connor talked. And then Marcus is the guy, he's one of the jocks from Cabin in the Woods. Chris Hemsworth was the other one, but he plays like the more studious jock that like does, I don't know, more nerdy things. Like he wants to be, more of a thinker, whereas Chris Hemsworth wants to be the brawn in the situation, in the simulation of that. And then there's another character that eventually comes in named North. I thought she would be a major voice actress because she was in, or her voice just sounded familiar, right? I was like looking through, I was like, maybe she's like Laura Bailey or maybe someone else big in video game culture. No, her biggest acting thing was she played Autumn at the end of 500 Days of Summer, which is a movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Autumn is literally at the end of the movie, and she has like 2 lines, and that's it. Right? Like, that's it. Maybe 1 line. Like, that's all. That's really all she's done. So there's major twists in the gameplay. Great twists. Something you don't see. And eventually they say something to you like, what was the biggest or hardest decision for you to make? Like, you complete the game and it'll say, like, what's the hardest decision for you to make when you did this? Like, was blah, 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 the best decision or the hardest decision, or was doing this the hardest decision? And then it shows you on a comparison to other people that have played it, like what they voted. I apparently voted in all the opposite ones, which was interesting. Like, everyone voted for that, and I was in like the 9% and like the 10% and like the 8% for the 3 questions that they ask. And also, God of War thing, where like God of War had cutscenes and gameplay and there's no break in between them, like there's no loading screens. This game is the same way. Granted, there's situations where you could tell they're preloading, but yeah, great oh wait, no, there is loading screens technically in between the ends of missions. Sorry. God of War, it's just you could straight up beat that game if you wanted to without loading screens. This game, you'll finish a mission, but once you start the next mission, there's no loading screens. Like, the dialogue options will pop up, and then you'll have like actions, and then more dialogue options will pop up, and then you'll have actions again. So yeah, that's something that's also great. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention as far as this game goes is that like I had to find a negative when I was playing this. I was like, there has to be a negative. There has to be something that wasn't good with it, right? And the only thing I could think of is that I didn't like certain situations when you were playing as Marcus that felt really boring. Like when you're first trying to find the Android Sanctuary, I hated that you're trying to find these specific pictures that he has in his hand and you're like looking for the entrance and you're doing all this and then you finally find it and then it's there and it just felt super long and super drawn out. It was like, you're an android, you should know in this situation what to do. Plus some investigating missions as Connor kind of got boring. Because you're just slowly walking around a house and you pick up like a house plant and you're like, ooh, I wonder if this is significant. Like it's kind of got the LA Noire feel where the objects you pick up aren't actually significant. But it's not like to the level of others. So yeah, that's that situation. But past that, I mean, I genuinely enjoyed playing this game. And like I said last week, you can get it for $75 with the Heavy Rain package. So you get Heavy Rain for $15, this game for $60. And then you also get like the soundtrack for this game, maybe some PSN avatars or stuff like that, all for $75. And I think it's heavily worth it because you're probably going to get like 30 hours of playtime in this game if you like actually put in the effort and try and get every mission and every dialogue option or anything like that. You're going to get a lot of playtime out of this game, and it's something that you can play in front of your significant other. You can play it for your family. Like I plan on having a bunch of friends over and we're going to switch between like I'll have three friends playing it. And I'll be like, all right, you're Kara, so any Kara mission you're going to play as her. You're Alice, you're Connor, so any Connor mission you're going to play as her. And, you're Marcus, so any Marcus mission. And then you're going to switch in between them. Because I did that with Until Dawn, but there was like 8 characters in that game. And it's a ton of fun. That's just a suggestion. So past that, I would 100% rate this game. Like, above and beyond, I wouldn't doubt it if this is up there for one of the best PS4 games this year. I think it's going to be God of War in this one. I can't think of anything that might beat it. We got Spider-Man. Who knows with The Last of Us 2 if that comes out this year. There's still Days Gone, I think, is supposed to come out this year. I don't know if there's any major PS4 releases other than that, but I'd have to, think about it. So on to Dark Souls Remastered. So if you played the first Dark Souls, it's basically an action RPG that's very punishing. You'll be angry playing it, but eventually you learn to time your dodge rolls or parries or anything like that you do. If you've never owned it, this package is worth it because this is a remastered version. So for $40, you get the remastered version, which is updated graphics, 60 FPS lock, which kind of bothers me because I wanted more than 60 FPS because I have a 144 hertz monitor, but it doesn't matter. Better resolutions and updated textures and all that stuff. You used to have to run something called DS Fix on the original version of Dark Souls, and it was kind of a nightmare to run. It wasn't incredibly nice, but this is all fixed with that. There's still present bugs in this game which bothers me, but I'll get into that. So approaching this like someone who's never owned Dark Souls before, like I said, it's an action RPG, very punishing. You're meant to kill these bosses, and you're basically lighting bonfires, meeting characters along the way, and basically trying to stop the Age of Darkness or promote the Age of Fire, or preserve the Age of Fire, sorry. That's something that's done, at first you're just killing bosses to progress the story. Like you have to ring these bells in order to open a new area of the entire game. Then once you're in there, you meet a character, and then you're basically finding out that you need to kill more bosses that get you something called the Lord Vessel, and then that gets you further through the game. And there's a lot of progression in this game. There's not like it's good because it's like with Dark Souls 2, just to give you perspective, or some RPGs that are really linear, you're forced onto a path like with a locked door, or maybe you can't jump into a pit because you don't have a certain item that keeps you from dying when you fall or something like that. Dark Souls, like you'll load in, you go through the first undead area, you fight the Asylum Demon, you get on a crow, and then you go to Firelink Shrine. And once you're in Firelink Shrine, that's it. Like you're in Firelink Shrine, your only direction is basically you need to ring these 2 bells because a Crestfallen Knight tells you to do that. So from that perspective, it's kind of annoying because it's not like you're told what to do. And obviously with games lately, there's a lot of hand holding. Like they want you to follow a path because then you won't get frustrated. Whereas like this game, you can go on any path once you get there. Like you can go down into a dark area where a boss named Pinwheel is, and there's also a guy named Patchwork down there. I think his name Patches. Sorry, Patchwork's the golem from World of Warcraft. And then like you can go up towards Undeadburg, which is where like the actual story starts, and from there you can kill more bosses. You can kill the Tauros demon. You could go down and fight Havel, and then you can go into more areas. You could go like fight the Hydra. There's all different areas, right? You're not forced onto a path by any means, and that's something that's really good about this game. But if you're a person that likes your handheld, you like being told what to do, you like being, put on a path, then obviously maybe you should go with something more linear. Something like Final Fantasy 13 does that. So a lot of the game is time-based blocking or attacking or rolling or anything like that to avoid damage. You dive roll, and then you get items that will increase your stamina, or you'll get it's basic RPG stuff. Like I shouldn't have to explain an RPG to you, but it's cool because each boss has that cool I should stop saying cool, but that fantastic nature to them, where like you fight the gaping dragon, and the first time I saw the gaping dragon I was like, holy shit, like look at it. Or you fight the you'll randomly encounter a Black Knight, and you're like, holy shit, like it's like 10 minutes into the game and you encounter a Black Knight, you're like, oh my god, this guy can mess me up, like that kind of stuff. Or you're trying to cross a bridge and there's something called the Hellkite dragon, which is huge. Like he makes an appearance, and then later he's guarding a bridge, and you got to find out how to defeat him or get past him, like that kind of stuff. Like you're encountering these bosses, and they're all unique in their own way. There's only like 2 bosses in the game that are honestly annoying or pieces of shit, or just like they were just thrown in because for some reason, I don't know, From Software thought it was a good idea. But by all means, like killing a boss is satisfying. Like you'll get those bosses that like you can't beat. Like it'll take you 1,000 times to try and beat these stupid fucking bosses. Like for me, I always struggled with Ornstein and Smo is a given. But like I always had a problem getting into the painted world and getting into that area, because there's these stupid things that'll knock you off these rafters. You're like crawling through these rafters to get to the painting and get into the painted world, and then you finally fight I think her name's Priscilla or something like that, and that area infuriated me. Like that area made me want to quit the game completely. So that's like a perspective. Like everyone will have their own difficult area, but it's interesting because you'll see how certain people struggle with certain bosses more. There will also be notes left along the way by players that'll tell you what to do. Like you'll click it and it'll say chest ahead, or it'll say liar ahead, and then you'll know based on that what to do. It'll say like friend ahead, and then you find the blacksmith or something like that. So with that, obviously you can play as different style of characters and anything like that. And it's also, I shouldn't have to say this, but it's probably one of the hardest games you'll ever play if you've never played a style like this before. People have tried to mimic it. Lords of the Fallen tried to mimic it. There's a few others that I can't think of right now, but Lords of the Fallen was a big one that failed. And there's also 2 sequels to this game, right? So you got Dark Souls Remastered. You had the original Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition that had, all DLC, and you had Demon Souls before that. Demon Souls, I've heard, is a nightmare. I've never actually played it. It was on PS3. I heard it was buggy, but I heard it was like even more punishing than Dark Souls is. Dark Souls 2, I think, if you're a real Dark Souls fan, you'll love that game, but compared to the rest of them, they're not as good. Dark Souls 3 is an easier Dark Souls, but still challenging at points. Still fun, great game. I'd rank that number 2. And then you got Bloodborne. Bloodborne's my favorite one by means. That one's set in a gothic area, and I might honestly talk about that one time in a future podcast. So yeah, with that, I mean, it's not like it's a JRPG or anything like that. It's not turn-based. It's not that. It's an action RPG, and there's a lot of there's a lot of reward in the game. I also said that, but I could see how a lot of people wouldn't want to approach this game, because you'll open it, you'll reach the asylum demon, it'll beat the shit out of you, and you'll be like, what the fuck? I thought I'm supposed to fight this thing. Meanwhile, you have like a wooden shaft in your hand or something like that. So you're like, oh, okay, I guess, I'm not supposed to do that. I guess I'm supposed to die. Stuff like that. Like they don't tell you what to do, and that could be frustrating from like, maybe you're a young gamer and this is new to you, or maybe, I don't know. There's definitely situations where people probably play like 10 minutes of this and they put it down. But if you love RPGs, if you love action RPGs, if you love platformers, because there is some platforming in there. If you love good side characters like Solaire, Praise the Sun, or Sigmire, or if you like Patches, you're an asshole. Anything like that. Kingseeker Framped eventually comes in. You'll learn the backstory. There's a lot of satisfying characters to meet. And with that, for $40, if you've never owned it before, or $20 if you have owned Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, it's definitely worth it. I'd say it's more worth it if you never played it before, because you're going to approach this, you're going to put 30, 40 hours into it, and you're going to love it. Whereas if you've played it before, you're essentially paying for updated graphics. You're not. Plus, there's like a major hacking problem. Only with one guy. I don't know if they've acknowledged it yet, but there was a guy who was basically he was putting a curse on you in the online mode that would basically make you have to delete your character, because you get soft banned, and then you couldn't play with anyone online. Some people don't want to play online. That's fine, but this guy was going around being a dick, so that was something to put into perspective. Also, the community for this game can be a bit disgusting at times. You're told to, like, get good if you're complaining about how hard something is or something like that. Or people say, like, this game is the Dark Souls of this game, because that's, like, it's a revolutionary game, and it's also treated as such. Like, people love this game. And that's where the community gets a little annoying, maybe cringy at times, but if you approach it like you approach Rick and Morty, where if you just watch Rick and Morty and don't pay attention to the fan base and you enjoy it, then good. But it's something where the fan base can be detrimental to the game, but that's not important. So yeah, for $40, I'd say it's worth it if you've never played it before. For $20, wait for Steam Summer Sale, see if it goes on sale at a cheaper price or anything like that. Yeah, and like I said, you can get it on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. It's eventually supposed to come to Switch, and that's a situation where I'd say it's absolutely worth it, because then you'd have it portable. And this is definitely a game that you can load in. You could load in at a bonfire, go kill some enemies, maybe fight a boss like on a train, while you're on a train or something like that. And then you get off your train, put the game away, and then load it up again later. And, But yeah. So I don't really want to talk about the crew yet, so we'll start with, I'll try and split up the bad games. So we'll start with Prototype at first. It's a game made by a company called Radical Entertainment. They eventually made a second one. I don't know if it was distributed by any major developer or publisher or anything like that. I don't know if it was Ubisoft or anything. So Prototype. You play as a person who was recently dead in an asylum, and you discover you have all these powers from some kind of mutant virus. Maybe you get claws that'll like let you tear people to shred like Wolverine. Maybe you could fly, maybe you can run really fast, maybe you get super strength, anything like that. And this mutant virus is starting to take over New York City. I mean, that's you're basically a guy trying to find out, 1, how you died, 2, how you got these powers, and 3, you're trying to like help your sister or your girlfriend. I don't know. I don't remember what she's supposed to be. It's honestly not very important. The story in this game feels like a disaster. So I don't like this game by any means. I paid $11 on G2A for CD key for Steam. It was released in 2009, and I've played Fallout 3, which came out in 2008. I played Call of Duty 4, which came out in 2007. I played Halo 3, which came out in 2007. I've played, what else came out before this game that looks better than this game? There are so many games that were released before this game, and the game looks terrible. Like, no facial animations whatsoever. Like, the mouth just moves like a puppet, and it's I don't know. Graphically, this game was a disaster. Also, I played it on PC. This game came out in 2009, right? The highest resolution I could play at was like 1280 by 720 or something like that. Like, I kept trying to go up to like 1920 by 1080p, right? Like, that's a standard that's been in place for a while, I'd like to think. 1080p's been around forever. I kept trying to put it up to that. Couldn't put it up to that. Just, they don't support that resolution. Graphic settings are like non-existent. It's not like ultra high or anything like that. I think it was literally just like more detail or something. It was terrible. So like I said, the graphics were awful, and I know that's not really important to most people, but I did not like the graphics. So with that, I mean, I played it for around like 4 hours, I think. Let me get more into the backstory, I guess. I won't spoil anything because I just try not to on this podcast. But your backstory is done by you absorb the powers of certain major humans, and it'll show you like, oh, this is what happened when you did this, and you'll progress, and then you'll find another one, and then it's like, oh, this is this part. I mean, it's supposed to be like characters of influence, but it just feels like soldiers that'll just blatantly shoot at you, and then they'll dodge roll, and then they'll shoot at you, and then you grab them and you absorb their power. You run away for a little bit. You get your heat level down from GTA 4, if that's a reference. You get your heat level down, and you come back, and then you go into a building, and then you fight some more, and then you do that. It's very button spammy, right? Like, you get the Wolverine claws, and you're just like XXX Y, XXX B to grab someone, Y to consume them, and you get health. It's I don't know. I hate the fighting. I hate the story. I hate the graphics. I can't think, like, because there's a game, like with these free roam games, I really enjoy free roam games. I like being in an open sandbox world. I loved playing GTA 4 in 2008 with a bunch of my friends on Xbox Live, just loading in, and you get cars, you get helicopters, you get guns, and you just drive around Liberty City and you gun people down. This game feels so fucking empty. You have the one story, and then you have like these side missions where it's like, here's a jumping puzzle, here's an orb. Like, it feels like Crackdown, but Crackdown had more fluff to this than this. Like, this game has nothing. Like, it feels just empty for as far as an open world game goes. Like, Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004 on GameCube, PS2, and original Xbox. Spider-Man 2 came out then in a better open world mechanics. Like, the web swinging was better than the gliding in this game. Jumping between buildings was better than this game. I mean, side character missions like the boy in his balloon, like that kind of stuff was better than this game. Delivery missions were better. There was jumping puzzles in Spider-Man 2, but they were also better. Like, this guy, you feel like a prick. I hate playing as the guy. He's an edgelord, and he's like, I gotta fucking kill everyone. Like, that kind of shit, and it's infuriating. Like, I don't like his character, and he wears a hoodie because he died, and, he was in a hoodie, and now he loves it. Like, that kind of stuff. Also, there is so many fucking load screens in this game. It'll like show like a 2-second cutscene, load screen in between, load screen after. You'll go into a building, load screen. And it's like 5-second, 10-second load screens. I have this thing on an SSD, and it still feels like it's like load screens galore. Like, I was getting really annoyed with how many load screens there were. So past that, I mean, I don't think Radical Entertainment has made a game since Prototype 2, and honestly, I hated this game, so I wouldn't doubt it if there's no Prototype 3 at E3, because this game came out in 2009, Prototype 2 came out in 2012. I don't think they have any plans to bring anything to the Prototype universe, and I really hope they don't, because like, this style of character is done. Like, oh, Marcus Phoenix is the one that says, fuck and eat shit and die. Like, that's the Marcus Phoenix thing. This guy just feels like a edgelord Marcus Phoenix that flies through the sky in a hoodie and proceeds to fuck off and try and find his girlfriend or his sister or whatever, and go to his apartment and then fight some soldiers and then fight some mutant beasts that come out of a hive that you have to close by spamming a tank firing mechanism and stuff like that. I'm done with this game. Like I said, played it for 4 hours, paid $11. I mean, if you've never played a game that'll influence your decisions like mine were with this game, then you'll probably enjoy it. Like, I played Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is better than this game. I played GTA 4. GTA 4 is better than this game. Far Cry 3 is better than this game. That's another free roam where you get to, like, fly around and do whatever. Far Cry 5 is better than this game. I know those games came out after the fact, but there's also, like, better ways to do free roam. When you have this giant open world, it shouldn't feel so fucking empty. That drives me nuts. I'm done. So I'll split up the bad games. So on to FEZ. I originally heard about FEZ from a movie called Indie Game the Movie. Indie Game the Movie basically covered 3 independent developers. The guy Jonathan Bloom behind Braid. I think it was Team Meat, but it was Edmund, and his name wasn't Alex. Tommy. Edmund and Tommy were behind Super Meat Boy, and then Phil Fish and Polytron Corporation were behind FEZ. He was still in development of FEZ during Indie Game the Movie, like it showed him playing it at PAX and all that. So that's where I got a hold of it. I got this on Steam Summer Sale a while ago. I think I got it for like $5. I couldn't find it on Android, even though people have said it's on Android. I couldn't find it. So I got it on Xbox 360 because I originally played it on PC, and then I was like, yeah, whatever. So I got, Xbox One. I don't know why I said Xbox 360. So I got an Xbox One. It's a very simplistic 2D, but also 3D platformer where, like, you'll be staring at your character, right? His name's Gomez. You have a FEZ. You're on the screen, you see a ledge. You hit right trigger or left trigger and the screen switches, and then all of a sudden you're able to see a whole new perspective and get through levels. So that's where the platforming and 2D, 3D aspect comes in. So you get through levels by switching the screen and all this stuff. You luckily don't have like a time limit. You're not forced on a path, at least from what I've experienced so far. You make jumping puzzles, you find a key. It's really satisfying to find like a key and then open a chest or open a door to a secret thing. You meet characters, have funny quips along the way, like, oh, you're looking flat today or something like that. Like, it's like they're obsessed with the idea of 2D, which is good. So to give you a little bit of backstory, you're living in this 2D world before you have your FEZ, and then all of a sudden this cube comes into play and it's shattered into pieces, and then all of a sudden the world can become 3D. You get your FEZ, you have the capability to switch between all these different perspectives, and then that's where the game starts. I won't really go past that as far as any of that. The game is a little punishing as far as like that old platformer style where like you'll jump and you fall off a cliff and it's like, damn it, like that kind of stuff. But it's still satisfying to beat levels or do anything like that. So it's not like you're forced onto a path, right? Like Sonic, it feels like you're holding right the whole time and you have to get through the level as fast as possible. Even Mario has a timer, even though I don't think anyone ever really reaches the time limit for Mario. Anything of that nature. So I'm trying to put into words how this like for $5 this game's absolutely worth it. I think it's 10 right now. That's still worth it, That's on Steam, by the way. But if you can get this on Steam for $5 or $10 or anything, it's worth it. And I always believe in supporting indie developers. There is backstory involving Phil Fish basically saying he's done with FEZ, he's done with video game development because people aren't appreciative of it, which is true. There's a lot of bad fans of video games. Like they're always in a what are you doing for me now situation, not like what did you do for me then, which is always bad. But I think he created a masterpiece of a 2D, 3D platformer, whatever you want to put it. It's unique in its own way. It's highly enjoyable to play. And I'm just trying not to describe it too much because it's something you should experience on your own. Past that, the soundtrack is incredible. It's got that classic 8-bit, NES era video game soundtrack. I don't know. That's why I said 8-bit, but... And yeah, it's super simple, but I enjoy it. I made it to the level with the giant tree. Like I was trying to climb this giant tree and, you're flipping perspectives and yeah. Um, the only thing that I could think of that's negative so far is there's a level with a bunch of floaty shit. Like there's different pixels popping all over the screen, or you're basically like having these big flashing objects in front of the screen. Like you're like, holy shit, look at all that. Like, and it kind of gave me a headache, to be honest with you. Like it was just, I don't know. It's a super easy level. Like I didn't have any problems completing it, but like afterwards I was like I looked away from my computer screen, and I looked like to the right, and I had the flashing images in my eyes. I was like, "Oh, that's ugh." And it gave me a headache. But past that, I mean, it's any game can do that to me. It's not like I'm going to, downplay this game for it. It's, like I said, absolutely worth it. I'm not going to give you too much backstory on it because you really should just experience this game on your own. Like, this is a game to experience and take it as you will. I haven't beaten it yet, but I probably will eventually. If they had it on Android, I probably would have already beat this game because I'd play it at work or, while I'm waiting for something or anything like that. But, yeah. So, $10 FEZ, made by Polytron Corporation, support independent video game developers, Good. And if you want to see it featured in a movie or see the backstory behind it, you could see Indie Game the movie, as well as, Super Meat Boy and Braid were covered in that movie as well. So our last game this week is The Crew. This was produced by Ubisoft. I don't know if it was developed by Ubisoft. But yeah. So you're basically in a big open world multiplayer environment where you're in a car, you're driving around, you're doing this whole FBI backstory for it's the Fast and the Furious where you're taken by the cops and you're undercover and you're doing all this and yeah. I don't care about the story. I thought the story was super generic. Like I said, it was done in the Fast and the Furious. It's every fucking thing where it's like, oh, we got you, but if you want to be free, follow our fucking informant things. Like, I think the character goes to jail for like 5 years and then gets out, but then they're like, you're going to be an informant for us anyway for some fucking reason, right? So, this game came out in 2013. It was on PS4 and Xbox One. It was one of the original ones that came out on those systems. I bought it on Uplay from G2A for I think like $13 or $10. You can also get it at GameStop for like $14 or get the complete edition for $30. I mean, like I said, the storyline's pathetic, so that's just out of the way. Online only is really annoying. Like, who's playing this game now? It's 5 years after this game came out, 4 years after this game came out. No one's playing this game, right? But you still have to have online only implemented. Like, you have to have an internet connection in order to play this game. That's annoying. I don't like that. The music was terrible. Like, I think most racing games should have a good soundtrack, or most free roam games where you're in a situation with a radio. I mean, that you should have good music. I didn't recognize a single fucking song from this game, right? Like, you got Ubisoft, they have the money to get the licensing for some legit songs, but apparently they fucking chose not to. Whatever. Graphically, in like forest areas and like countryside, like the giant sequoia forest in California on the West Coast, the game looks good there. Like, I enjoy the game there. It looks good, whatever. In cities, I had major clipping issues, or like the rendering distance looked like shit. Like, they would just appear. There wasn't like a slow appear. Like, they just appear. Like, buildings would just appear, which sucks. Because, I mean, it's not like I'm on a bad computer. I'm on a i5 4690K with a 970 GTX graphics card and 16 gigs of RAM. Like, this thing should have more than enough capability to run a game that was made in 2014. But yeah, I don't know. And then like the mirror, like when you're in first person view, I think the game looks terrible. That's where I think it looks the worst, but whatever. So online always sucks. A good thing is, like, when you're driving along, right, you could just take out your phone and you could hit, your phone in the game, and you could hit, I don't know what fucking menu you go to, but you could switch to a different car. Like, I'll just be driving a Ford fucking, I don't know, F-150 or something like that. And then all of a sudden I switched to a Nissan fucking, I don't know, 350Z or something. Like, I'll just switch to a car, which is cool. Like, you can just switch on the fly. Now, here's the thing. This game came out in 2014. They already announced the second one that's going to be at E3. I might talk about it next week in our pre-discussion, whatever. Forza Horizon 3 came out in 2016 or 2017. It did everything in this game better by 100%. Like, better soundtrack, better graphics. It's less realistic, or Forza 3 is more realistic. Forza Horizon 3 is more realistic in this game, because, like, you can't go through a turn going fucking 200 miles an hour in this game like you can in The Crew. But it did a whole bunch of things better, like, graphically. Forza blows this game out of the water. I know it was 2 years after this game was released, but I don't give a shit. Like, I was so thoroughly disappointed with this game, because I remember being really excited for it at E3 a long time ago. I think it was when The Last of Us got announced. I was, like, excited for this game because I love racing games. I love Need for Speed Most Wanted. I love this game, or not this game. I love Forza Horizon 3. I loved, like, all pre-Need for Speed games, like Need for Speed Underground, all that. I remember playing Test Drive 5 on PS1. I love that game. Or it might have been Test Drive Unlimited or something. Gran Turismo 3 on PS2. Like, all these games I love. I can't stand this racing game. It's just, I don't think you should have online only. I don't think you should implement microtransactions, but I know every game company is going to do it nowadays, because fuck it. If some 6-year-old with their parents' credit card is going to pay $2 for a decal on their fucking car, why not? Like, I know everyone's going to do it, but it drives me nuts. Ubisoft and EA are the worst fucking people behind it, and it makes me not want to buy Ubisoft games, because Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 5 also had it, and I know it's just so bad because it's a model that's really enforced nowadays, and I can't wait for a day that something can be done about it. That rant's over. I mean, past that, I can't think of anything else that's good to say about this game. Troy Baker voices the main character, Alex, or whatever his fucking name is, but it felt like Troy Baker didn't give a shit about this game. He was like, give me the paycheck and get out of here. You know, like, this was the same year that The Last of Us was made, so, you know, I fuck this. I'm done with it. Like, also one other good thing is that the map is huge. Like, I think it takes like 45 minutes to an hour to drive across from California all the way up to Maine or Washington, D.C. Like, I tried to look up, like, how long does it take to drive across the United States in The Crew, and it popped up, and it was like a 45-minute YouTube video of this guy just driving across the United States. So that part's cool. Everything else about this game fucking sucks. I wouldn't recommend it for $30 for the complete edition. I didn't play the DLC, obviously. I hated using Uplay. I think Uplay is a shitty system that Ubisoft forces, but whatever. And past that, what is there to say? Like, play Forza Horizon 3 if you want a better experience. Maybe if you want to play this game for like $10, maybe less than what I paid. I didn't enjoy it for $13. I would pay $10. I'd pay $5. No, I wouldn't pay any of those amounts. So, if you want to be disappointed in a racing game, pay $5 to $10 to $15 for this one. So past that, next week we're going to be talking about E3 pre-discussion. I'm going to talk about maybe The Last of Us 2. There supposedly might be a Horizon Zero Dawn sequel. There might be a Bloodborne sequel. There might be, what else? There's Anthem's going to be there, that EA game. We'll see. Or is it BioWare? Doesn't matter. I think BioWare is owned by EA, so that gives you that perspective. There's going to be a whole bunch of information next week, and it's going to take a lot to discuss it. And surprisingly, this podcast took longer than I thought it would. I thought it would only take 30 minutes. I mean, past that, tune in next week. We're going to have a whole bunch of E3 discussion. I might consider starting a giveaway system as far as this entire podcast goes. I might implement giveaways because I'm buying these games and they're stacking up. Like, I have Splinter Cell Remastered, or not Splinter Cell Remastered, Splinter Cell on PS2, sitting on my desk. I don't own a PS2, but I bought it because Amazon gave me the wrong fucking version. They should have gave me Xbox. So I have that I can give away. I have 2 Human that I can give away. Maybe I'll give away the Kingdom Hearts collection because I don't know if I'm going to play it anytime soon. I might start hosting giveaways. Stay tuned. Past that, if you have any games that you want me to discuss in the future with people on the podcast, because I think, like I said, the next 2 weeks we're going to have E3 discussion. Next week I might have one of my friends on. The week after, I don't think I'm going to have anyone on, but the week after that, the 23rd, I might have a bunch of people on again. And then 4th of July, that area, we're definitely going to have a bunch of people on the podcast. So there you're going to have a whole bunch of people talking. So if you want to hear any games after the fact or anything like that, give us a suggestion. You could send your suggestions to gamingreversalpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us. We're G as in Gary, R as in Robert, _podcast on Twitter. You can go on our website, gamingreversal.com. You can find us pretty much anywhere in those areas. You can comment on our YouTube videos. We got a podcast, or I upload the podcast to YouTube. And yeah, you can suggest games, suggest something you want talked about, maybe something technology news, anything of that nature. Just find us there. And then also you can find us on Google Play and iTunes if you're not listening there already. You can find us on gamingreversal.libsyn.com. Yeah. With that, I'll talk to you guys next week. This has been Gaming Reversal episode 3, and thank you. Goodbye.